Welcome to Something to Say, where we bring voices from diverse backgrounds who will share their unique stories and perspectives on finding their passion and provide insights on how you can find yours. Join us as host Greg DeShields guides us through this enlightening journey.
Welcome to Something to Say podcast, a unique platform that amplifies the voices of individuals from various backgrounds sharing their passion. I'm your host, Greg DeShields, and I'm pleased to bring you another exciting episode. Thank you for joining us. And today we welcome Jose Garces, Chief Culinary Officer at Condor Valley Corporation. Now, in full disclosure, this is my second opportunity to interview Chef Garces, and he is a fantastic person to have an engaged conversation. Since opening his first restaurant in 2005, Chef Garces has emerged as one of the nation's leading chefs and restaurateurs. He is the winner of the James Beard Foundation's Best Chef Mid-Atlantic Award and one of the only and few chefs in the country to hold the coveted title of Iron Chef. Chef Garces is the author of The Latin Road Home, a culinary and cultural tour of Ecuador, Spain, Mexico, Cuba, and Peru, and his debut cookbook, Latin Evolution. Condor Valley is a Philadelphia-based hospitality group specializing in personal dining experiences rooted in the rich culture, tradition, and culinary vision of James Beard Award-winning Latin American chef, Jose Garces. Taking a heartfelt and creative approach to time-honored recipes and dishes, Garces operates several restaurants throughout the Northeast, including Amada in Philadelphia and Radnor and Atlantic City, Whiskey Village, and Garces Trading Company at the Sierra Center. The group also offers additional services through the Garces Foundation, a philanthropic organization dedicated to Philadelphia's underserved immigrant community. You are going to enjoy this conversation. And Chef Jose Garces, thank you for joining us on Something to Say. So, Jose, I just cannot thank you so much for doing this. Actually, it's interesting as I think about the ability to have you join it. We've had such a mixture of individuals, so I'm excited to have your perspective join the dialogue for season 3.
Awesome. Well, Greg, thank you for having me on. It's great to connect with you as well, and I'm excited about the conversation.
I know there are a variety of things from your past, present, and future that we'll get into, and we'll certainly be as mindful of your time as possible as we dive into that. But I did want to share with our audience, this is actually the second time I'm interviewing you. First time I was actually in your office and had a microphone and all of that stuff. And
Oh gosh, yeah.
Technology has advanced, but
quite a bit. Yeah, you're refreshing my memory right now. Yeah, that was, I believe, was that a 2401 Walnut?
Yes,
is that correct?
It was.
Oh wow. Yeah, quite a bit has occurred since that time, personally, in the world, and yeah, I'm glad to reconnect with you.
Absolutely. Well, the way we began our podcast is to share some kind of get to know you questions. And when I interviewed the first time, we really didn't do that. So I'm excited to do that. So if you're up for it, I have a few icebreaker ones to start. So are you up for it?
Perfect. Yeah, I am up for it. 100%.
So what's your favorite childhood memory?
My favorite childhood memory, I mean, the first thing that comes up, and I did not pre-screen your questions, Greg, so I'm just going to go right from the heart. So I think, when I think about my childhood, and it's funny that I'm a chef and I've, love food and whatnot, but it goes back to that time in my mom's kitchen with her, spending time with her as a young kid. She would come home from work and would be cooking and making a family meal, and I was there to help her. I was an assistant. Hey, Mom, what do you need? Can I do? And those memories of being in the kitchen with her and helping assist her and spending time with her are still very special and very memorable. And I think it shaped who I am today as a culinarian, someone who loves food.
Well, And we often hear that from those individuals who we interview, that influence of that childhood memory and how it connects as they segue into their personal life and professional life. So I'm glad
Mm.
to hear that. All right, so we'll change gears a little bit. So this next question really centers upon what was your biggest failure and what did you really learn from that experience?
Wow. Well, failures are, I think, in life, we go through so many, right? There's the things, I mean, and from different scales. And I think I'm 53 now, and I look back on those 53 years, and there has certainly been some times when I've felt like, yeah, was this a failure? I mean, and again, the term is just it's so harsh, right? It just feels so like, but I don't know. I mean, I think for me, there are no failures in life. It's really about learning and growing from, maybe experiences that you've had or things that you have encountered. So for me, I had on the business side, we had like an economic downturn from one of our big properties that we were at. So we were at Revel Casino, and and that was our restaurants were performing well. The casino took the casino business plan and model didn't support the rest of the things that were going on there. So pretty well publicized. That caused a trickle down effect and really hurt myself and the company. And it was like I would say, financially a tough situation to confront. And, but we certainly, and again, you notice I'm not using the word failure
That's
because it's not, yeah, it's really not about that because I think you learn from experiences like that. You learn a lot about yourself, about your team, about, how to grow from those moments. And yeah, so I would say that was a moment where, we encountered some really difficult situations and we pulled through the best we could. And yeah, that's just kind of life in many ways, Greg.
So we often have people reposition that question in the format that you have. Most tend to describe it as, what was one of their most significant learning experiences and how they were able to take that and kind of move that forward in terms of the decisions that they make and how they approach their business as they go forward. All right.
Yeah, and I would say just to dig into that a little bit further, because when you say failure becomes very personal to somebody or something, and that's not always accurate. There's always context behind that. So yeah, I'm glad to hear that other folks were repositioning that on you.
Absolutely. All right, this question, I have been dying to get your response to it because I think it's just completely aligned with what you do. So, if you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would that be and why?
Well, lately I've been thinking a lot about our American history and our American past. And I'm going to go back to, again, one of the most historic figures in our American history, which would be Abraham Lincoln, someone who, really confronted a lot of issues, a lot of controversy, really difficult moments on many levels. So he's someone who I would love to just get an understanding of his perspectives. And yeah, really, I would dig into some of these tough decisions he had to make, or just kind of ask those kind of a little more, you know, really tough questions. So yeah, he's someone I would look forward to interviewing and having dinner with, just having a conversation.
It's interesting because so many people have, through, I think, even the movie that they had about his life, talks about he's a lot more complex than most people realize when they learn about him in history. And the kind of decisions he was making as a president was so incredibly challenging given his experience in that particular space. So I agree. I think that would be an interesting person to sit down with. But I think everyone in our audience would want to know the follow up question, which is what would you serve?
Oh. Well, I think in my own true fashion, I would want to stay like close to my roots.
Mhm.
And, no matter who the historical figure is, I think serving food, cooking food in general is an art form, but it's an expression of who you are. So I've always prided myself on Latin American heritage and culture. So it might be like my Ecuadorian shrimp ceviche, my mom's empanadas, potentially a Spanish paella, just kind of things that I feel like are warm and comforting and represent who
Wow. I'm so glad you did a shout out to the empanadas because you talked about those in great detail when we interviewed you
I am.
5 years ago. But
How about that? Yeah, I mean, it's a little pocket of love if you do it right. It can be very delicious. Yeah.
fantastic. All right. So this is something that for someone who's involved in so many different aspects of business today, how big is your inner circle?
My inner circle is relatively tight these days. So I decided, well, in 2018, my inner circle was larger. I sold my company, stayed on as a founder with the group. And then around 2021, I'd started a consultancy practice to just give myself more ability to flex and be into all aspects of food and beverage. So I started a consulting practice called Condor Valley. And in within Condor Valley, I have hired some what I would call culinary ninjas, people I really trust on the food side, a great operating person, my assistant Noelle, who's just been like just my rock. You know, if I had to shout out to Noelle McHugh, I told her the other day that in all this time that I've worked together, there's really no one I've trusted more than her
Mm.
because we do so much together. We talk regularly, and it's such a key person. So again, shout out to Noelle McHugh. She's an amazing person. But my inner circle is pretty tight. It's some folks because I a lot of my work is recipe development and brand curation. Several culinarians, a great ops person, Noelle. That's it. Keep it tight. And of course, oof, I get in trouble, Greg, if I don't say this. My other rock, Jill Garces, my wife, who is just, we started working together about 6 years ago and have found ways to stay in our own lanes and still work together and live a happy marital experience as well, so that those two things don't collide. But she's been a great advisor, a mentor, someone who not mentor, but someone who looks out for like, hey, Jose, take a look around the corner here. She's actually the first person, if I'm engaging in new business or looking at candidates to maybe take on a project with, I'll say, hey, honey, would you mind having a conversation with this person and getting engaged? So, shout out to Jill and all that she does. So big support and a great part of what we do.
Wow, that's cool. You know, it's interesting when I've asked that question, as people get older, that inner circle gets smaller and smaller and smaller. But there are a number of people who have kind of changed it from an inner circle and have called it their front row.
Ah, I
And
like that. Yeah,
they
the front row.
identify it as the people who get that reserved seat up front and get a very close look, but are also the critical observers of your performance as well as the ones who will let you know exactly what you're doing well. But I do like that phrase, front row. So
I like the front row, and it's important that you have, trusted folks that will let you know if they think you're making a poor decision or if if things aren't aligning. But I would say also what's great about this team is also they're hard workers. And when we got to get things done, we just roll up our sleeves and get the work done. So it's a nice mix.
mm,
Yeah, I'm super thankful and grateful of where we're at team wise.
two more questions, and then we want to dive into
Yeah.
the restaurant industry. So, who had the most influence in your life?
Wow. The most influence, good, bad, or ugly, my dad. I think, your parents are so critical to your upbringing, who you become as an adult in many ways. I have two children, Olivia and Andres. I've tried my best to be the best role model and support for them throughout their whole journeys. Olivia is 23. She's at the University of Chicago in her second year graduate program. And my son Andres is at Penn State. He's in his first year, freshman year. So they're still, very much on their journey. So I've recognized the influence that my dad had on me. And I said, the good, the bad, and ugly. All the good, is all the entrepreneurial side of things, and kind of the go-getter mentality of really project driven, business driven. And listen, the bad I'll just leave for him, and a late night, heart to heart cocktail or something like that. But yeah, and he's 80. He was just here at my home recently, spending some time. And yeah, even still at this age, I recognize the impact or imprint he's had on me.
Right. But, I think from the good and the bad, it helps you to also have a bit of a guiding path, as you work through your life and kind of follow from his experience in this world. So
Definitely. Yeah, it's, nobody's perfect, but it took me some time to realize some lessons that I had to learn kind of on my own. So yeah, Greg, again, maybe for another time, another podcast, I'll let you know.
Okay. All right. So one last question, and I really appreciate you sharing this insight and as much as you have about your own story, but this is somewhat of a different twist to the other question that we had talked about. When was the best year of your life and when was the worst year of your life?
Well, best, I would say, oof, man, couple good ones. So it's a tough question. But so first off, I'd say the best 2 days of my life were the days both kids were born. I think those 2 days were life-changing in many ways and impactful beyond words, and ever so grateful for those days. Professionally, I would say it would be 2009. I won a James Beard Award, and I became the next Iron Chef. And that was just kind of a whirlwind effect that occurred for me professionally and led to many opportunities and a lot of television and media exposure. So I would say that was a pretty epic year. Worst, Greg, I have had no bad years. It's all no bad days. It's all every day that we're on this planet and living and doing, breathing is a good day. So I can't really go back and say, oh, that was.
Right.
I mean, yeah, but I'm so grateful for this moment we're in and whatever is occurring just outside of our control is just really it doesn't compare to the day I get to wake up and look over at my wife, know that I have two great kids and two French bulldogs, good friends and social network, and I get to go cook and create and practice my craft on a daily basis. What can I say? I'm so ever so grateful for that.
I did have someone who's a Gen Z that we interviewed. He said, I'm way too young to have my worst year yet. So give me a little time to work my way into that. All right. I do want to talk to you and get some of your perspective around the food industry in general.
Yeah, sure.
So, what are some of the misconceptions that you would like to clear up about the industry?
One of the biggest misconceptions I think that, let's say, a restaurant goer would have is that maybe it's easy to create a meal and have and be fed. I think there's so much that goes into one, like opening a business. It's very difficult, very challenging to, as an independent restaurateur, to go out there and do that. Two is just getting that food to your table requires an orchestra of folks and people and dynamics that occur to get that plate of food in front of you to be able to eat it and go home and not have to wash any dishes and all that. It's just, I think it's an undervalued service. And where we're at right now, cost of goods, cost of food, cost of labor is just not what it was and not what it'll ever be. So there is a big misconception around, price. I mean, price and perception value. I remember when we were, I've created so many menus over my careers, and a chicken entree is something that's standard. I mean, put a chicken entree. I remember for like 10 years, I'm like, guys, well, how could chicken entrees be $18 to $22 for the last 10 years? It's impossible. Like, it costs more to raise the bird and have it come here. It's just, so I think there has been, and now it's changed quite a bit. The value, like that seal has been broken, but you could see, and then on the consumer side, it's hard for the consumers to accept now. Oh, well, gosh, now I got to pay $35 for this chicken entree. So, so, so there needs to be a meeting of the minds from the consumers and the operators, to just kind of understand, hey guys, here's what we get. Here's our product. Here are our margins. Here's the price. This is what it is. And I think that hopefully that reckoning is kind of has been coming. It's here. It's a good thing, I guess.
I agree. I think that misconception about how things are orchestrated within the food service industry and ultimately still trying to balance it out to provide the guests the best experience and the quality meal is sometimes there's a bit of a gap. And I think it is getting closer and closer in terms of kind of understanding what that is. I also wanted to ask you, and so much of innovation and artificial intelligence has become so prevalent across all aspects of business. But have there been any particular breakthroughs that you particularly like as it relates to the food service industry?
I mean, I think for me personally, I've been enjoying the tools just from like kind of like a brainstorming session, giving me a starting ground and like giving me some, as a creative, there are times when, yeah, certainly I've been creating for decades. I love that I can have a resource to say, hey, I'm thinking about this. What do you think about this? What kind of where can we go with this? And so the breakthrough for me is that I could see the culinary industry leaning on this tool and ultimately cooking better, making more delicious
Mhm.
food. I find that tools from at least a culinary side of things should only be inspirational, at least from my side. Ultimately, chefs have to cook and create and take those concepts and tweak them and do what they have to do to make them special. But I'm finding again personally that the tools, like, it's adaptable, it's good. It's not going to take my job away. I know that because chat isn't coming out and sautéing any beans or anything. So no, we're safe, at least from that standpoint. But it's a great, and I think clearly there's so many applications to it. It's going to expand everyone's ability to grow. I think about from a business standpoint, if I was a young chef, young entrepreneur, I had no mentors, no guidance, very little. I had, the guys I was working for and whatever I can grasp from the training and kind of day to day business side of it. But I could see, I didn't know how to negotiate a lease.
Mhm.
I didn't know how to like create a budget for my, first build. That's great intel. You're a great tool. And again, so I think there's just so much that the tools have to offer, and we just have to use them wisely, use them the right way, responsibly.
I was involved with a panel discussion in upstate New York around the integration of innovation and technology in businesses and how a lot of businesses have a bit of a pushback because they feel as though it's going to take people's jobs and that sort of thing. But the emphasis was around it being a tool. And I appreciate the fact how you led with that and kind of carry that thought through because it does really help you if you use it like a tool to be more effective and more impactful in the work that you do. So.
I think it provides a knowledge base that most folks didn't have access to or would have to really dig and research. It's more accessible,
Mm.
and that can only be good for humans, I would say, to be more engaged, more knowledgeable of different topics, and certainly in business it's very helpful.
All right, so a few more questions, and then we'll conclude with our something to say question. So I actually had the opportunity to attend my third Garces Foundation event last
Mm.
week. It was fabulous, but I wanted to maybe get some of your thoughts about this year's event and what have your thoughts been? The food was fabulous, the music was amazing, as
Mm.
well as the dancers. But what are some of your thoughts?
Well, this was our 14th annual event. We took a little pause during COVID because I think 2 years, obviously, because people couldn't gather in big groups. So we didn't host the event then. But I take my hat off to the team, the staff, Jillian Gerke, David Weisberg, Robin Morris, to name a few. I can't really name everyone, but they did such a great job. And what's great about the event this year is that it morphed into a more cultural event. We went with this kind of, the first couple of years we were a gala and it was like black tie or what it was, everything was very formal. And that just didn't feel right to our theme and our mission and who we were. So our esteemed chair, David Weisberg, a few years ago was like, hey guys, you should really, let's embrace Latin culture. Let's embrace the chef community that are, really a lot of immigrants who have their own businesses and whatnot. And, let's bring in artists and the music and just kind of really have it be a cultural event. And that felt really good. So I think this was the second year that we went with kind of the Latin night market theme. And it just felt really, really solid. Felt amazing. I in particular so one of the highlights for me is our live auction items.
Mhm.
So, and again, there we put up a couple dinners. One was Friends of Tournament of Champions. So Stephanie Iser, Karen Akunowitz, Leanne Wong was one dinner cooking with me.
Mhm.
And then the Philly legends, Mark Vetri, Michael Solomanoff, Greg Bernick, and myself. And those two items brought so much excitement to the room. I thought we raised a good amount of dollars for those meals. And looking forward to next year already.
Wow. Well, and also congratulations on the cause. I mean, it is such an incredibly worthy cause that your foundation really supports in terms of a number of the workers who have very limited resources. So thank you for, creating that concept of support for them.
Appreciate that, Greg. And, it really, to me, when we first started the foundation 14 years ago, I really thought by now, I had thought within a few years we were going to have some immigration reform, path to citizenship, ways that these folks who really drive our economy, they drive our services, they're good people, generally family folks who want to just help their families and themselves and do some of the tougher jobs that most Americans don't want to do. We couldn't, our restaurants would be really it'd be tough to have the amount of restaurants and options that folks have in the community, the hotels, the construction industry. So and my experience with this community was through a restaurant lens. So coming up in the business, from the early 90s and understanding that this is the workforce. Every kitchen I went to, no matter where I went, whether it was in New York, Dallas, Philadelphia, DC, these were the folks that were driving and doing, the tough tasks. And so for us to provide just, again, services, basic services, healthcare screenings with access to further healthcare if needed, and as well as our English language classes, which again, this is literacy through job training. So we train folks on, restaurant duties and tasks through language, and so that they're able to ascend and job train at the same time. And the language is such an important part for this community to be able to, assimilate, go up in their prospective jobs and ascend. So it all feels really good and feels like, the right thing to be doing, given that we've achieved success and, through a lot of work. I'm also the son of two immigrants. My parents both immigrated from Ecuador in the late 1960s in Chicago. I was born in Chicago. I have birthright citizenship. So all that's going on right now is I would say, upsetting to say the least. Again, thinking back to 14 years ago when we first started this, I really thought we would be much further along as a community, as a country. But here we are, and we will continue to provide the services as long as we can.
Well, what you do certainly makes a difference. And I think for everyone who attended, it wasn't about just having a good time. It was really supporting an incredibly worthy cause. I also wanted to talk to you about pop-up dinners and how you're going to kind of revamp that concept with be integrated within your website.
Yeah. Thank you, Greg, for mentioning that. It's a fun thing we're doing. And also, I currently reside near Portland, Maine. I live in a town called Saco, and we built a curated studio that has, we do recipe development, social shoots, and pop-up dinners. And you can see all those on chefgarces.com. So I'm here in Maine and we'll be doing them seasonally because it's a beautiful place during this time of year. So from May through October, one Saturday a month. And Greg, this is a way for me to continue to practice what I love to do, which is cook, create, and feed. And so I'm super excited about that opportunity to do that here. There's great access to ingredients up here. We've got all the Maine coast for delicious seafood. The farms here are just tremendous with their agricultural and produce and dairy. So it's a fun thing. So if you go to chefgarces.com, you'll have to come up to Maine to see me. Yeah, and it's all thematic. Every month it's a bit different. The first one in May is called Mesa y Co. That's a new Mexican concept that I'm creating for a property down in Atlantic City, Oceans Casino and Resort. So we did all of our development work for several months, and now we took snippets of that development work and turned it into like a pop-up dinner
Pop-up
menu.
experience.
So it's so cool. Again, I'm super thankful that I have the ability to do these things at this stage of my career and really enjoy it.
Well, I definitely see a road trip ahead for me. So
There you go, Greg. Yeah, you got to come up and check it out.
So two more things. Tell me about Cook Unity. I understand that you want to do some expansion with that.
Yeah, so Cook Unity it's a web-based platform. It's a meal service. So the company has many different outposts. They're in Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, Atlanta, Miami, Seattle, Austin, Toronto. I'm currently in about 5 of those markets. And what's great about the platform is why I like it so much is my teams are in those commissaries cooking my meals, my SKUs, things I've developed and created. The meals are meant to be, they're cooked fresh, never frozen, served fresh. They have a 7-day shelf life on it. As a consumer, you get the meal hand delivered to your home in a cooler bag. And again, you have about 7 days to eat them. They're all microwavable or oven proof meals. So no cooking. It's not like HelloFresh or Blue Apron, just get to eating. And it's been super great. I've been with them since 2021. We are going to go into the Miami market next, and we will be going into Seattle after that later this year. So it's been a wonderful experience. I'm happy to support the company and continue growing it through my meals. And it's been, what can I say? Just a really, really great thing. And the thing is, the New York meals get to Philadelphia. They get to Maine. So they're kind of a logistics company as well, delivery and logistics expert. So Cook Unity, guys, get on there.
Well, it's an interesting concept because you can build a little bit of an incentive for people to now have a taste of a Garces meal in their own home and then look for it in their next travel destination and have an actual full experience in one of the restaurants.
Yeah, I mean, I do appreciate that because, again, they're in Los Angeles. A lot of folks in LA have never tried my food, and now they get to sample it, at least in this kind of format. So, you never know.
So the last question before we get to the closing is Village Whiskey. So it's expanding to Nashville. And I should say, when I was inducted into my leadership role in this tourism organization, we held our induction at Village Whiskey in Philly, and it was the best experience. So the idea that you are expanding, I'll certainly give a testimonial about how great the food and the overall dining experience is at Village Whiskey.
Well, thank you so much, Greg. And yeah, we are excited to take Village Whiskey on the road. We're going to take it to Nashville, Tennessee. We've got a great location in a neighborhood called the Gulch. And we'll be opening there likely maybe late fall, early winter. We'll see how the construction process goes. But super pumped about that. Village has been close to my heart since we opened it in 2010. So 16 years of serving great burgers and great cocktails. And excited to see it go to another market as well.
Fantastic.
Others to enjoy as well.
Well, listen, you have been quite generous with us today, and I want to allow for you to go back and be super creative and innovative in all things that you do. But our final question, because we are entitled Something to Say, we always ask our guests, what do you have to say?
I would have to say that I'll leave everyone with one thing here, which is lately, and this is kind of my perspective, it's kind of that I've been doing quite a bit of inner work. I'll say I'm being mindful and aware of how I express myself outwardly, how I think inwardly, a lot of that. And so I would say that in this moment, be mindful, be aware, and continue that practice because I think it helps us all be better humans out there when we are more mindful and aware of who we are. And at our core, we're all very good people.
Well, Jose, thank you so much for sharing your passion, the insights, and all the great tidbits about the restaurant food service industry. Thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you again, maybe not as long as it was from the last time.
Thank you, Greg. So appreciate being here and looking forward to, listening in again.
So, listeners, that's a wrap for this episode of Something to Say. And we trust that you have found it to be insightful as well as enjoyable. We encourage you to stay tuned for inspiring conversations with voices of individuals from diverse backgrounds sharing their passion. So until next time, this is Greg DeShields.
Thank you for tuning in to Something to Say. We trust you found some valuable insights and takeaways that can help you find your passion. Don't miss out on future episodes. Please subscribe, rate, and review us on your preferred platform. We value your feedback and suggestions, so let us know how we can serve you better. Keep the conversation going and stay inspired until we meet again. Take care and happy listening.